Welcome, dear audience, in the far away and in the near on your screens, in the time zones where I would politely say good morning, good afternoon, good evening. And today we have a very special double feature for you. We have a powerhouse of expertise represented by Noa Barak and Nicole Wieberneit. I would like to give a quick intro to our two guests, starting with Noa. She is a customer-centric enablement expert who has been instrumental in developing growth-driven strategies for the educational domain. She has a rich experience in building enablement teams, infrastructures, and service offerings that significantly improve customer and partner experiences and satisfaction. Noa is passionate about empowering employees, moving projects forwards, overcoming challenges, building relationships, and solving problems. She has extensive experience in true blended learning and educational solutions, customer experience, and cross-company enablement. Welcome, Noa.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Cool. Nicole, you have the advantage, at least you have seen me once in the lifespan, live and in color. Yeah. Now to our second expert, Dr. Nicole Wieberneit. With Nicole, we have our second esteemed expert on our show. She is an award-winning global sales and strategy executive and holds a doctorate in economics. With over 20 years of international experience, Nicole has a proven track record of leading worldwide revenue growth in incubation products in highly complex matrix organizations such as Microsoft, where she worked for over 8 years in different roles. Nicole is also a startup advisor and has helping these companies in their go-to-market, and especially going from product market fit, because I had to look up what is PMF, to start their scale-up journey. Welcome, Nicole.
Yeah, thanks. And thanks, Ralph. And great to see you again here.
Yeah, last time it was in Munich. And one of my curious questions was, do you know a Thomas Wieberneit by any accident? And it was by free will, yes, it's my husband. That was a very interesting starting point. So now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very excited and curious what we can learn and share from our two experts in the upcoming 55 minutes. But even more, it's 57. I made it. And the audience, use Facebook, our LinkedIn, to chat with our experts, and we will love to include your questions and comments in our conversation. Ladies, the floor is yours. And if I missed anything which you would like to add on your introduction, please feel free to do so.
Thanks, Ralph. It's great.
So looks like you nailed it.
Yeah. And Marshall, would you like to go for the first one?
Oh, yes. In fact, I would.
Because
for the education of our audience and also for myself, what is the difference between a startup and a scale-up? We've all talked about startups at some length on this show over the past couple of years, but referring to a business as a scale-up is something a little bit new for us. So how would you split that definition?
Noa, do you want to start or should I start?
You can start. I think it's a great question to open our topic here.
So for me, it is like when you think about startups, and I actually do that mistakes by myself, you think about it going through different phases. You can think about it from an investor perspective, pre-seed, seed, A series, B series, and so on, and then it goes further. If you look at it from a go-to-market perspective, yeah, so you have that kind of finding a product market fit. That is mostly driven by product or engineering or building the product and finding how should the product look like, and where you think, oh, now you have something where we really solving an important problem a customer have, and they're getting value out of that. So when you have that kind of product market fit, and you get through having some pattern, you find not only on the product, that is product market fit, but also you're starting to, what is the pattern? How can I now sell that solution, product or services, whatever it is, sell that solution to more customers, and how can I trying to drive to scale that? Namely, often in that early stage of a startup, you have a founder who is super excited about his work, and he brings that kind of passion in, and that's the sale. That is not scalable, because if you're a founder or CEO, you have a lot of more problems to solve. So you're going from founder-led sales to sales-led sales, and then you're trying to drive that kind of sustainable sales. So you're starting to get more effective. You're trying to drive into different geographics. You're trying to replicate in the end a sales playbook, so you can hit these growth numbers. So now that is just one type of explanation. The other one, you could look at it, so going from 0 to 1. So when you hear that, you're going from 0 to 1 annual recurring revenue, then how can you going from 1 to 10 or 15? So that is when you start how you think about scale ups, and the requirements are really different, and they're shifting. But Noa, please add.
Yeah, so that's a great way to look at it. And when that happens, there also, from an enablement perspective, there needs to be some kind of a mindset shift, because at that point we are expecting more of a quick growth, and we need to be able and ready to support that. And that means a lot of different steps that needs to be taken from the operational side, but also preparing to be able to maintain the customers and to work with them from an enablement perspective, because at this point it's not just acquiring new customers, but it's also really retaining the customers and their level of satisfaction. And for me, that's why I think in that scale-up phase, enablement is really critical to its success and to the company's growth at that level.
I see.
Noa actually put in a very important topic, the recurring, and how do I basically renew, how do I keep the customer happy? And when I look at it from a revenue architecture perspective and how you can grow it, you have 3 different type of streams of revenue. So it's net new customers, then you have expansion, and then you have renewal. And that hockey stick that you would like to see, and that massive exponential growth, you can only get if you're really focusing on your renewal and expansion, which sits where that customer enablement is a super important point to actually being able to drive that.
I see. All right.
Good starting point. Now, we have covered, I guess, also our second thought. What is the difference between the go-to-market sales and customer enablement to a certain degree? But if you want to jump in on that one, please feel free to do so. Else, I would go for that a lot of people do know the buzzwords like sales, marketing, sales ops, revenue ops, and how do they really relate to each other? And who should be in charge to make it all happen and to create happy customers?
So if I start, so go-to-market is really building the strategy and tactics on how you want to bring your product and service to the customer. And so, and from a architecture perspective, you have different levers that you can use to build that kind of design of the strategy out. And I would like to give an example on how that could fit differently on a CEO and founder that Noa and I talked yesterday about that. It was, they created an innovative dish recommendation engine that should help Gen Zs, or Noa, you know better, getting these kind of little target groups around that. So what is important in a go-to-market? What is my target group? What is the messaging on the problem they are solving? So for that company, it was like, where do I find my next food? How do I actually feed myself? And I would like to be culinarically being excited about what I want to eat, because I'm really interested in foods. And then, so that is really messaging, target group. Then how do you create that demand? So that's the marketing side of the house. So how, maybe I need to run some ads. Maybe I need to do thought leadership, going into podcasts like we're doing. Then the question comes, what are the different sales channels? So that could be ads. I want to actually get money by placing ads, because that is more important. And then it could be e-commerce, where I can show the menu. So they're actually doing it via TikTok. I get a TikTok menu and say, oh, I would like to have that one. And your differentiation, so I can buy them immediately. And then how do I get the restaurants which are selling the food on there? So that could be, I need a direct kind of sales channel, or I'm partnering with somebody. So these are all different levers in marketing and sales that are coming together and to have that kind of view. And then the third piece is really that kind of customer success. And maybe, Noa, you can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, which is also by itself can be different teams or different processes that we need in place, like the customer success, customer onboarding or education, support, and other teams, that the end goal is really to make sure that a customer really see the value and gain the most that they can from what we sell, right? There's a lot of different ways to get there, but that's basically that side of the house. And I think the challenge, first of all, the question that you just asked, companies that are at that step of a scale up, that's the question that I ask. Like, who do we need now to own each side of the house, and what type of organization, and what exactly are these new titles or leaders that we need to drive our company. And it's very it can go different ways with the revenue. Someone responsible for revenue, if we talk about sales operations, so having all the operations behind that. Where is the balance, or where is the limitations between pre-sales, post-sales? And I think that the one critical thing, and we also talked about it in that call yesterday, is really the communication and one messaging across the different teams, and making sure there is one person, CE or whoever, that really sets kind of the vision and the messaging and where we want to go, the mission. So from there, it's easier to start building the responsibilities and kind of see who owns what and how do we work together.
With that in mind, who is in charge of go-to-market? Noa.
So usually that step, I need to say it depends, of course.
Of course.
Because we have a lot of different companies, it can be B2C, B2B, if there's any, not just software, hardware, different components. But at the end, the CEO is the one that needs to have kind of the oversight and have that being driven, at least at that step of scaling up.
Well, if we are going that far, then we don't need other people. It's always the CEO. Can you make this a bit more concrete, please? And if you are saying that depends on what?
So really, I think I see Nicole wants to answer as well. I will talk about the different what it can depend on. So again, it's the type of company, first of all, B2C, B2B. What is the connection? What are between the customer enablement and what part does it take versus the go-to-market, and then depends on the type of solution or product that we actually sell.
So I think what is important is that go-to-market is along the whole customer journey, and that is a message Noa and myself really want to learn. It's not marketing only, it's not sales, and it's also not product, because you have topics like product-led growth, where product engineering are actually far more involved in the go-to-market and not just playing, an influencer group. And then you have that customer success. And I give you an example. When we had, and we're all coming out of the tech world. So when we sold on-premise solutions, customer success was not that important. You had kind of trying to drive, marketing had a smaller role, but sales had to really take that kind of big role to get convincing the customer that they invest the money and buying the infrastructure, etc. What changed when we went into subscription type of modeling? Marketing got bigger. So not only because of the time change, but because of how people are buying. They got burned. So the companies, when you're in B2B, the experts digged themselves far deeper and they knew far more information. So marketing was required to get over the different touch points, because a buyer, and that could be an influencer or actually who have the budget, might be not that interested in that point in time to engage. But once the signals were strong enough, then you would need to hand over to sales. So marketing got bigger to where the strong will is with the sales within the journey where they ended up with. Now, if you're going the next step, is currently there is some sub-industries are going more and more into a consumption model. Like at Microsoft, they're selling Azure is a consumption. So you only pay once you actually have used it, and not like a subscription upfront yearly. So, and people might heard about this MAC agreement, Microsoft Azure Commit to Consume. You can do a $100 million MAC agreement that is in flight with any of the big companies. The thing is, there is no money changes the hand when the commitment gets signed. So I can have 100 million. What the customer commits to is that they will consume within a certain time frame. This is what was agreed, and that's where the pricing comes from. So customer success is getting more and more important. And I believe with AI and where whole the generative AI goes, and with the huge kind of impact on compute power, you will see more and more companies going into consumption also when they want to disrupt the market, because the risk for the customer and the investment upfront is far lower. So now that's a long-winded answer, but if you look at the whole customer journey and where it sits now, where does that end up belonging to? In the end, all three teams or all four teams need to work closely together, and that is why the communication and from Noah's perspective is so important, and for me, a culture which clearly sits with the CEO needs to be aligned to drive along that one.
Mhm.
And if you don't train them, they cannot consume, as they are not in the powerhouse of knowing where their own benefits and their organization and their team benefits would be.
That is correct. Exactly. And the customer journey that Nicole is talking about, if we look about the different entities, so there are different people that are responsible for parts of it, but it's critical to have one person that oversees all of the customer journey, because for customer experience, it needs to be transparent what is going on with the company and who does what. For them, they need to have the same, approach, the same messaging, and from whoever they work within the company. And I think that's one of the reasons why there need to be one person that oversees all of that.
Like a chief customer officer.
In the old days.
The chief customer officer is often customer success in company.
Yeah.
So I think you're going into that direction. Who has the customer experience in mind? So you're Marshall on that one. So you also could think sometimes it's the customer experience officer. And now we're talking here about startups or scale-ups and how to go to the next level. So when you look at a startup, you might not even have anyone customer success, maybe some people in engineering, you maybe have one marketer, depending on the business. The sales is done by the CEO. When you're going into the next phase in the scale-up phase, I absolutely believe that it needs to sit with the CEO, because he was actually often leading or the founder the sales, but he needs to build up team underneath who slowly takes different pieces over. And we've seen in discussion with different startups and experienced startup founders, it's actually quite interesting. What should be first? Should we first focus on getting some salespeople in and then doing customer success, or doing customer success or building that out? So companies trying different things around here. One is, for example, a security company, which is a fellow friend of Noa and myself, and he actually currently has basically customer success and revenue. So he is a CRO and a chief customer officer together in one, but has in marketing somebody is the CMO, just to bridge that gap. But there is different kind of differentiation, and what Noa said, depending on what you're selling and to who.
Yeah, and also what Nicole mentioned earlier about the subscription, because if we have customer success and sales together, in companies that have consumption model or subscription model, that's more critical, because that's part of the renewals and at the end part of the sales process.
In how far do inside out versus outside in mindsets take a role in go-to-market? I just heard before from Nicole, do I hire more salespeople who push out my stuff into an audience that may or may not want it or need it, versus customer success, which is more inside or outside in driven, make them successful and use that as my success for growth?
Nicole, you want to take this one, or should I?
I can start. I have to say, I don't believe that sellers should just push something out there. And growth only really happens if we have a painkiller for pain the customer really have. I think the time where people are just selling something, it's not there. On that flip side, and how do I think about, how do I measure the right kind of growth and how you need to go towards? I think you need two areas. One is you need to have metrics that underlying and support your go-to-market. And we need to look at it. Where does it go, and what is hitting my assumption to be right or wrong? And then super, super important, I need to have customer feedback. And that is what I should get, especially from customer success. I would even say it's not only, customer onboarding, but also sales enablement. If you're in a bigger company, you often have an ivory tower which sits there, syncs things up, which is not true to reality. So when you're going the first step in going into that kind of sales enablement, you should get that feedback loop as well, and then adjust here. And actually, you should create your design based on feedback you get constantly along the line here. So that's my view of the world here.
I love your statement on you have to have the right metrics, or in the moment that you quoted the metrics, because I was asking myself, Noah, jumping over to you on that one, what would be the right metrics to go for from your perspective, and then adding in Nicole, please.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first are the customer and the product usage. In the world of SaaS,
Okay.
we can know so much, and we actually can, have data of the real journey of the customer. How do they leverage their products, and that gives a very good metrics and understanding of what they do. Another thing will be the checkpoints. Nicole mentioned it a little bit, but it can be run different ways in different companies. A lot of times by customer success with QBR or surveys or different ways, but really knowing the checkpoints and understanding what the customer status is currently. If we take it a little farther, so we need to have, as part of the metrics, customer churn and customer renewals and upsells. Sorry. The thing is with these metrics is that it sometimes takes a little longer to get there. So you have to be, to know what's to be the making sure where your customer is before you get there. And it sometimes will be a little too late to fix some kind of issues or to improve the customer experience. But all this information can really help us understand and can feed back to also the go-to-market and the product, and provide a lot of insight to what can be our next way to market, or our different, like our next thing in the product.
Cool.
So there we have this comment by Janet. So getting reality right is key. So that probably can't be emphasized upon enough. So Noah, you said usage, but what other good approximations of reality are there?
So the other ones will be the checkpoints, and when I said that, I mean really the work with the customer, ongoing, and if it's condensed calls or QBRs, or where the teams have the points that they can really understand how the customer really leveraging the system. And we talked about, we never want to push the sale, but it is interesting to see sometimes that when we work with the customers, we also want to understand what problem do they really want to solve, and sometimes push to the direction of really solving that problem versus just doing specific things as the customers see them, and help them really get the value out of what we sell. So that will be a focus. And another really, I think, critical thing for the customer experience is the onboarding and the customer onboarding. And that's really a time frame that we need to understand and need to share with the customer and give them the enablement to really get the value, and start with a positive note.
I think a lot of mistakes are done in that one, and that goes probably back to perception versus reality on that comment. The communication between sales and customer success, in my experience, is broken in a lot of companies. So customers, they tell salespeople, that's my problem, that's why I want to solve. They even make all these plans going into the pitch, have an architecture, etc. And then when you look at it, what's getting implemented, it's very different. But it's different also because actually sales never handed it over. Yeah. They're starting with explaining the same problem again. And I mean, we all have this experience when we look at ourselves as a consumer. Think about you bought a telephone product and then you call, but my telephone is not working, my line is not there. So and you repeat it 5 times, and then you're getting handed over even to the next one and next one to help you there. So I think there is a lot which is broken, which is why Noa and myself have actually teamed up, because we think there is a huge amount of improvement that can be done if you bringing that closer together. And previous years, we heard a lot of marketing and sales need to be closer, and they're starting to align even the metrics and how you measure a CMO and a chief revenue officer, both now going out on revenue and not just leads that got converted, because also there you've got a lot of that. Marketing creates the leads and sales I'm not even looking at these leads because they're all crap. Yeah. And similar kind of broken record you have here. If I go further, go ahead.
I just wanted to give an example here, Nicole. We gave a lot of example of companies and CEOs, but for me as a customer, also implemented big platforms in my past. And there is an example which, after the sales cycle, we went to the implementation step, work with a completely, of course, different team, which is not even customer success, but professional services. And there was not any understanding of the solution and the vision that we as a company needed, and that's why we purchased that platform, while the sales were already very aware of it. And we kind of felt we need to start from scratch, and we took a lot to get where we needed. And when the customer success or account manager got into the picture after the implementation, we felt like it's getting closer to the sales. But that disconnect, I think it can be very big for customers and can really impact customer churn at the end.
How can this disconnect be fixed? Or how should it be fixed?
Aligned metrics as the first one.
I have the person that overseeing
additional revenue in customer success.
Yeah. So make everyone. So you have normally net new, which clearly sits with sales. You have renewal, which is often sits with customer success. How do you work on expansion? And I have an example on that one where the startup, so sales was responsible for expansion. It was during COVID, they were selling an e-commerce solution. And so they were not interested in expansion because it was going. So the chief customer officer said, okay, I take it on. Yeah, I bring it in. And he did a strategy where he said, you sold customer e-commerce solution first. We also need a payment solution. We have that as well, but we're doing that as an expansion because it actually goes to a different buyer. So payment sits normally with the CFO, e-commerce depending on chief revenue officer or CMO. So he took that on, and And that really, with that focus, went off. So then what happened? COVID slowly went down. Net new e-commerce solution weren't that important anymore. Then sales wanted to hook into and saying, hey, I would like to be part of expansion again, because that is how you grow. So you need to come thinking about what are certain motions which we want to run together and get responsibility and metrics as for both. That's where they ended up with, by the way, both having a number and from an incentive perspective, both getting comped at the same time. So that's where you then align, because if you have just one, it's often falls off the other ones.
Let me challenge that thought. If I put a revenue target on customer success, I make them part of the sales department. And with that, quite automatically, as we are looking at increased revenue for myself, not looking at customer success, but customer is the driver of my success, which is not a good thing for customer success. Again, it's an inside-out view. No, how to avoid this?
So I think we always need to have the right.
I think I mean, sometimes I mean, you should know that.
I think
okay, not sometimes.
No, it's a fair challenge, and I'm not sure it's always the right solution. And we do need to take into consideration what are the incentives for our teams, and to make sure they are in place. So when we look at the metrics, obviously incentive is the top one. We can have some other incentives that are not specifically, the bottom line of their commission at the end. But we do need to have some kind of incentive. To push and take that to where we want it to be. But I will say that it's when we talk about renewals, when we talk about upsells, then the customer experience, the value that they see, has to be there in order to get to that line and that commission. You cannot do one without the other.
Agreed. But question on my end, where is the metric about my most favorite topic, customer happiness?
You can always, and I think that's important, you design incentives and targets or bonuses. Should not be purely, from my perspective, sales driven or numbers driven. You can bring into, from a customer success perspective, what is your net promoter score? What is your customer lifetime value? That's another kind of number, KPI you can measure or should look at it. From a sales perspective, you should look at cost of goods sold. Yeah, how much do you drive there? How do you come into? So there is an option to do staggering and doing both. Companies try different things out in different directions. I have been in companies where customer success are not getting comped. Yeah. Then you run the risk in that once the cost pressure is on, it's a really cost center. Yeah. And then if you have a very CFO-minded organization or financial-minded, that is then on the chopping board, as an example, more, where I would say for me, person who is in customer success, they know really what is coming along and where they are. I have been a consultant before. So if you look at a service company, I would have been in customer success. I love to sell. I love to upsell and go there. And you have certain people who can that really good because they're actually the trusted advisor. They understand that. So why shouldn't I, in that moment in time, if I'm not getting comped, but I'm getting sold, and then my seller gets all the money, I'm not happy either. So the middle
Yeah.
part is probably a way to look at it.
Well, if I can, Thomas, you asked before how we can fix the disconnection. And there's another thing that I think can be done, and that's the enablement. And when I say enablement, I don't mean just the customer, but also the internal enablement. Having that as a one for all for different areas in the companies, customer success, support, sales, and using that as really another tool for having that united messaging, the same terminology across the company, making sure everyone understands the values. I think that is a really great tool to make sure that the customer really work with different type of the organization, but they're all the same. And I just had a call last week from an organization that I've kind of talked 3-4 years ago, and they were asking about enablement and learnings and what we need to do, and kind of suggested to have this one over making sure that it's all built on one another. And then I got a call last week after 3-4 years that now they're feeling it in their customer churn. And they just now put someone to have as an enablement leader in their company. So they actually built everything. And if you have that, then you can have like one source of truth. It doesn't have to be always the same one, yeah, but we know like marketing is responsible to be the one source of truth for that, product for this specific items or area, and then from there it just flows to the whole company. But that way you really make sure that you don't have those disconnections and you have one kind of voice across the company. And I think the critical path and opportunity to do that is at scale up. When companies scaling up, then when we need to focus our efforts of doing that. Ralph, did you want to ask something?
Yeah. I was just wondering in the perspective of, we found some touch points and checkpoints, which we would like to measure. Now, we want to make everybody aware, and at a sudden it jumps to my mind like this little bulb from Daniel Düsentrieb on his shoulder, who is telling me, I have an idea. What would be the remarkable helping tool set one should implement, independent from the size of the organization and the status where it is in, just founded, growing, scaling up, to have a certain, let's say, at least overview, not to mention control, about what's happening around him. Nicole, what is your first guess?
There are so many tools there. It's super, super hard. There is not that one common tool. I think the most common one is a CRM system. Yeah. Which, by the way, should be
right.
Yeah, and should be sitting in RevOps, and it's actually more or less a functionality of revenue operations, which coming more and more together, where they're trying to bridge that gap between, by the way, sales ops, marketing ops. It's coming more together in that RevOps, which should be independent to the person who's doing the overall go-to-market, because they need to keep them true to what they want to do. And that goes back to that question that lady had, how to hold them true in accountability. Because if it sits with sales and sales reps up, the same manager, they don't want to name it. But so for me, it is that one. Then it's, if I look just on the MarTech suite off the side of the house, and there is a great kind of study that comes out every year, alone MarTech in itself currently has 14,000 different vendors which just playing in the MarTech space.
Hello,
So-
Scott Breaker.
Yes, exactly. He is one of the two which bring these studies out. But so what is the one which fits best together with you? The same then on the sales side. So you have Gong as an example. You have, I, for example, like that kind of motion product-led sales enough. And it depends very much also, what is your sales motion? What is your go-to-market? Is it partner-led or ecosystem-led growth? Is this product-led growth? If you have product-led growth, you need to know what kind of, how do you convert from a product to leads, etc. Very different than when you're using market-led growth. So it depends very, very much upon how is your channel and how you're going to market. I cannot really tell you at the moment. However, I believe, and if somebody have an idea, they should ping me. I would be super interested in creating a startup. I think the CRM systems and the customer journey is about to be completely disrupted. It doesn't make sense to have a funnel like that going down, because customers are not buying like that.
Right.
And we're trying to push them into something which is created by companies to organize their work, but not on how customers are thinking. And with AI, I believe it will be far more signal driven. Now, what is the right signal? How do you know when a signal is right to reach out? Because you still need to map it into the organizational alignment. But I believe there is something coming, and that definitely startups working on it. But I haven't found the right one yet.
It was more that my curiosity was on you as the experts and consulting the small organizations, such as they have to pay you, they have to pay for their employees. So what do they can afford to go step by step forward in that journey with some technology to guide them? Yeah,
I actually think technology is not the most important thing here.
That's the
Yes,
statement. Thank you very much. That's a really good statement. Yeah.
So for me, it's like, yes, I need to know how much deals I have in the pipe, where they are, what is my conversion rate. But honestly, I can run that with an Excel spreadsheet. I wouldn't say that this is the most important thing to get going. I think the strategy and understanding the market, understanding who are the buyer you want to go after, that's how important is that problem for the buyer, and does it keep that person awake at night? You probably have a problem, but is that problem so important that they take money into their hand, and do you have a good solution for that? That is the starting point for me to get it scale. Then how do you do sales playbooks? What is working, what's not? At Microsoft, huge company, we did a lot in PowerPoint and Excel.
Mm-hmm.
I know these are the products Microsoft sells, but you can go the same with Google Sheet, with Google Page, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's you don't need that. And in addition, when you, for example, all these cloud providers have startup programs.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going and enroll and want to be at Microsoft for startup, you get, not only you get 100,000 or 120,000 credit on Azure consumption, you get, for example, Dynamics as part of it with some user license for free. So that's should enough. But building out the go-to-market strategy, I haven't seen a real good tool for it. And then you have like forecasting, Power BI for some metrics, etc. A lot of AI, I would say, coming on top of that.
So the people business, to set it up properly and to do the stuff right, make your customers you want to address, catch them at their pain points, what you said, what keeps them awake at night. In the German saying, wo drückt der Schuh? That is exactly what I love and embrace. I really like that one. Yeah.
But
But
I mean, we are CRM guys, right? So
Really?
is Excel really the tool?
No, I'm just saying you don't. I think if you, and that's a good question, when you go from startups to scale up, I think you need to look at a CRM system and start driving these type of implementation as part of revenue ops. That's where it is sitting at. It's how, and I can definitely talk about CRM implementations and having sales, different sales stages, and how do you define that and how do you move them along. But for what we are looking at it from a go-to-market and custom enablement strategy, it's not our most important thing. There's actually RevOps people who are doing that and are better equipped to go super into detail there.
And it is a fair
Well,
hint that you mentioned that there are these programs established or are coming up more and more intense by the large players because they want to get these organizations in their starting and beginning and make friends and get them in a positive way addicted to a cool set of solutions. And there we have also Zoho, some open source companies, HubSpot, as Scott Brinker is in their board and working there as well, which deliver by intention, as Freshworks as well, products for free to get some starting points and move on, such as Google is delivering as well, as you mentioned. So it's very good that you gave us some hints in the area of, yeah, when you start, you don't need the highly techy stuff. If you scale up a certain size, you better think about it. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I think considering during scale up tools and that can help you be more efficient is essential at this point. But they have to come after your target. What are the pains? Everything that Nicole said. The tools are there to help you fulfill all of that and help you with efficiency. So yeah, I do agree. Like CRM is basic, and if you want to scale up, you'll need that in place. Also, content management system or learning management system to make sure that is being done across the company, and ideally analytics and reporting. But I will agree that's a very challenging one in the market. It's I also agree we're kind of a little behind there.
what would be the scope of functionality that you would recommend a scale-up company in order to be able to track their success?
Functionality.
Yeah, well, you have a strategy. Now you say at some point in time, in order to stay effective and even increase efficiencies, you need some tools. But at what scope? I mean, CRM is a term that I use and many of us use very widely. It has marketing components, it has sales components, it has service components. And some people even include commerce.
Yes, I once used it as an LMS, which was really ridiculous, but it's possible.
Yes.
Oh my.
So I think if I start, when you start with marketing, if you're heavy B2C and you need a lot of marketing touch points, then you come with a CMS. You need to have social media integration where you put the messaging out, getting that more around. You mean content creation in itself, the creativity side of the house needs to be
talking about content.
Yeah. Yes, so you need that. For content creation, I would say AI is currently helping a lot as well. So there is like, you have all these AI agent. I'm testing actually several things out from, very pointed kind of tab view, which is really on LinkedIn. Then you have Canva, which is another kind of content creation, which is really going after the kind of B2C and the small kind of entrepreneurs, things going that. So there's a huge band, and that's why I wanted to say that 14,000 different tools, and you need to look at what fits you. From a sales perspective, if you're going into sales-led growth and you have SDRs and BDRs, how can you help them to be faster? Like Gong would be, quick kind of dial and getting the messaging out there. How do they get, because what you want, you need to do, for example, 800 calls every morning, just to dial the calls. You need quick personalized stuff from them. Where do I get personalized? So scraping even over the different kind of social media to get what I understand from Nicole. Then there is things like LinkedIn Navigator, which when you're going more and more into, if you need to do enterprise sales, to get these kind of feature. I think you will see there was a big shift from going on phone to email. Email conversion rates are going super, super low at the moment, especially of AI and content creation. You will see going more into in-person. So being at conferences, building out evangelists, going meet people there, not for creating leads, but also to close deals. But depending again how young the market it is, you need to be there. You need to talk about your product, because that kind of creating familiarity on how you're selling. That's why content, as Shri mentioned, is super important. Being out there, being shown as a thought leader, so that once it really comes into, it's more an inbound call that comes in. And that is where, for example, HubSpot has done great work in how to do inbound versus outbound. And there is a lot of discussion currently in the market. How much will AI even replace that? I don't think AI agents will replace that, but a lot of changes.
To complete Nicole, on the other side, we have self-serve tools. We need maybe a CRM to support our support team and provide solution to customers. If we want to push them for more of a self-help, we have new AI tools that leverage that and support that now even more. For a customer success perspective, then we also need to be able to analyze and track our touch points that we talked about early on with customers. And that can be a CRM or specific tools like Gainsight and other that are out there right now. We talked about the content creation or learning management systems. There's a knowledge base and under content that needs to be spread, and that I believe goes to definitely all the service teams, but can be across the company completely. And one more aspect is the quality, which is a big part of enablement. And we want to have also the tools to support that, to make sure that our teams are providing the excellence service and support that customers do need. And that's an integral part of really internal enablement as well.
Okay, well, that is bringing us up close to the end of the show, so I'm going to give you a nice, easy outro question. What is the one piece of free advice that you want to give startup CEOs so that they see their company move to the scale-up stage? And remember, people are listening to this, so it's free advice.
Feel free to start, Noa.
One piece, that's hard. I have to limit
You can go two if you want. Yeah, the floor is yours.
So I think for when you are in the startup mode and you want to get to the scale up, that takes us actually one step back, right? We were talking about all the things that we need to have in place to get to when we need now to increase and change our go-to-market and change our operation and our mindset. But I think when you need to get to the scale up, your focus still on the go-to-market and understanding the feedback that you see, be able to pivot quickly, pair the feedback and what you see your audience or your customers really want. Without that, I don't think a startup can even get to the scale up level. And the other thing is really the people in the company. Who are the leaders, and do you have the right people that can take you to the next step? We haven't talked about that a lot today, but it's also, of course, the culture, the DNA, the people are critical for the success.
I think you put it spot on. It's staying agile, talent. Do you have the right talent? And by the way, we heard a lot of experienced founder CEOs. They're exchanging their whole kind of leadership along the customer journey if they're going to scale up, because it's a different type of person you have. Mm-hmm. And then the culture needs to come top down. You cannot hustle anymore at that point in time.
All right. Well, I think that is it for our CRMKonvo today. Thank you very much to Dr. Nicole Wieberneit and to Noa Barak for joining us and educating us on the topic of scaling up. Really much appreciated. Thank you to our audience for your questions and your attention. And we really appreciate it. Tune in next week, if you will, when we will be diving into why customer experience rocks and in which direction does SAP and CRM develop it. That will be with our guest Kai Stubana from SAP. Hopefully you will join us for that. Until then, I hope we see you in the next one. Be well.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.